Hello, welcome to Sunday's Hotline Live, brought to you by NordVPN. Your chance to have elite cybersecurity, the price of a cup of coffee. And if you look in our YouTube description, there is an exclusive discount offer for Hotline Live viewers. Get stuck into that. My name's Daniel Com. Delighted to be joined back from his travels by it's Keith Jackson. Keith, how's it going?
Great. Thrilled to be back, Dan. Obviously, the weather's just superb. So, yeah. Honestly, we've actually got to that spot. I mean, see, so south of Spain, 22, 23 degrees. The beaches are packed. Everybody's having a lovely time. And then you come back to this. Gales, with sleet, hailstones. And somebody said to me a while ago, there's a period of the year, which is obviously where we're at just now, a period of the year in Glasgow where it doesn't matter what jacket you put on, it'll always be the wrong one. And that's where we are right now.
That's true. Yeah.
And I should just go and do it. So I could do this from Spain. There'd be nothing to stop me.
In theory, it sounds like one man that's been caught up in the bad weather, judging by his cough, is Scott McDermott. Scott?
I'm just getting rid of the cold, thankfully, Daniel.
That's another thing, by the way. I've got to share a car down to Liverpool with him when he's full of something.
No, I'm fine. I'm just getting rid of it now, Jacko. It's just in time for you coming back.
Brilliant. I'll tell you what, Scott, we'll be driving down to Liverpool with the windows open all the way.
Well, that sounds like fun. If only I was going on that trip.
I made sure I get rid of it before our nice couple of nights away in Liverpool, Jacko, or a wee romantic getaway.
Aye, that's lovely. That's really nice. Of course, you're going to Liverpool because Scotland are playing Ivory Coast on Tuesday night at Everton's Hill Dickinson Stadium. But we have to start, guys, with last night's game. Scotland lost 1-0 at home. Sadly, we do. Scotland lost 1-0 at home to Japan. Keith, what did you make of it?
There wasn't much to make of it, was there, really? It was, things we've learned, right? Let's try and do it that way. Things we've learned is that Angus Gunn looked all right. If he has to be the number one at the World Cup, then I'm okay with that. Scott McKenna, Big Jack Henry did fine as a centre half pairing. Could be called upon again at any point. I would imagine we'll see a different partnership on Tuesday. Things we've learned: Nathan Patterson's an upgrade at right back, but he desperately needs more game time because he looks a bit rusty. But you can see the difference he makes in terms of the balance and the shape of the team. So happy with that. What else did we learn? We learned, and I hope Steve Clarke has learned this, and it is becoming a bit of a concern for me. Scotland are a far better side when Billy Gilmour's in midfield.
Aye.
And I was surprised that it took him so long to get him off the bench yesterday because we'd lost control of the middle of the pitch. And I know that Kenny McLean did fine, and you know that you can trust Kenny McLean. But if we're actually being serious now about putting a team together and working on what our best midfield and what our best 11 looks like, Billy Gilmour's he's got to start. Now, Steve Clarke, he can't keep making the same mistakes, and he's made them twice now at the 2 Euros we've qualified for. He didn't start the first game with Billy Gilmour in the team. And I'm really concerned when I looked at that yesterday. I'm trying to fathom, and I'm sure that Billy Gilmour will start on Tuesday night. But I wonder what's in his head, because if we're going to learn from what's gone wrong in previous, because he keeps talking about that, well, I'm telling you right now, mistake number one at both of these tournaments has been leaving Billy Gilmour out for the first game. I don't understand why he did it, and I hope he's not planning something similar this time round. I thought even in his short time on the pitch, he really offered something, you know, in terms of getting on the ball. We were giving it away for fun for periods. The Japanese were swarming all over us. And because they're so rapid, they're like wee ninjas, aren't they? We struggle to keep control of the ball in kind of key areas. Just give it to Billy Gilmour. You know fine well, 9 times out of 10, he'll control it, he'll protect it, and he'll pop it off to another teammate. And that's something, that's a quality. If we're going to have any hope or aspirations to do anything at this World Cup, we need to have our best players on the pitch and people that you know can keep the ball in tight situations, keep possession, and keep you ticking over. I felt it was a big miss yesterday, to be honest. I don't know what you thought, Scott.
No, I agree with you on Gilmour, Jack. I don't understand. We've spoken about this so many times. I mean, international football, the key in international football is keeping possession.
Yeah.
And Billy Gilmour, I'd probably say Billy Gilmour and Kenny McLean, to be fair, probably the two best we've got at keeping possession of the ball. But Gilmour's probably even on a different level. And I agree, when he came on, he offered us something extra. I think he will start on Tuesday. I totally agree. When we get to America, when you think of the heat and the conditions over there, you're going to need to keep possession when you get it, and Billy Gilmour's the best at it. My big takeaway, Daniel, for the game in general was, and it's been a frustration for a while, I'm hoping Jacko agrees, but I just came away from it thinking, when is Steve Clarke just going to take the handbrake off this team and let them go and play? I mean, we've qualified for a World Cup. We're there. We've done the hard bit. We've qualified for 3 tournaments now since 2020. So, I mean, we've achieved so much, but we left those 2 tournaments feeling utterly frustrated and full of regret about no turning up and no doing the things that we were good at and no really making a mark on the tournament. And I think now's the time that you just need to let these guys, or let a lot of these guys, off the leash. And the frustration on Saturday was, and I know, listen, Japan are a good team. They're 18th in the world for a reason. We all accept they're a really good side. I think even the Scotland fans knew that going into the game. And probably if somebody says no, it'll be a draw, I think most fans would say, aye, fair enough, Japan, good test for us. No, a draw's not that bad a result. But again, we've conceded late on. No, we defended pretty well for most of the game, but then concede late on. So there's that regret again to say, well, where was the attacking intent? No, where was the chances that we could have created? And I just feel as if, and honestly, I don't want to criticise Steve Clarke, because the job he's done in getting us to these tournaments has been incredible, but we know that his natural instinct is safety first. I just thought that came to the fore again on Saturday, when it was a game where it didn't really need that approach, and I really hope that changes. I don't think we made enough forward passes. I look at certain players, probably Lewis Ferguson being a prime example. I feel as if he's so restricted in what he can do or what he's allowed to do in the pitch, in terms of what he's capable of, but every time seems to want to come back the way. First instinct's always to play a backwards pass. Look at Tommy Conway, a young player who's come in at the weekend, having spoke during the week about how he switched positions for Middlesbrough and how he's loving it, coming in off the left-hand side, being that kind of wide attacker and being a real goal threat for Middlesbrough under the new manager, Hellberg. So when I seen him in the starting lineup, I think, right, here we go, this is going to be something a bit different. Obviously, we've no Gannon Doak, so Conway will provide that. He didn't get a chance because every time he picked up the ball, he was so deep he couldn't really make an impact, so he's having to go back the way or inside. And the reason he's so deep is, I think, his first instinct, even in that position, isn't to go and test his fullback, it's to make sure he doesn't get caught going the other way in Japan getting attacked. So I just left the stadium feeling frustrated. I know it was only a friendly, and you're not going to get too het up about it, but I worry about us going to this tournament because I feel as if the handbrake has to come off. I think Scotland fans now at this stage would rather lose a game 4-2 than 2-0. Do you know what I mean? No, their teams went and had a go, and I think we almost owe it to these players to say, look, go and express yourself, go and enjoy it, go and play and do what you're good at. If we lose a goal, fine, but let's try and score a couple of goals. So that was my feeling coming away from it.
Well, you can see on your screen we're getting plenty of comments in already on Steve Clarke in last night's game. If you're watching at home, get involved. Let us know your comments and your thoughts. We can, before we go further and read some of those Steve Clarke comments, we can actually hear from the Scotland boss. Hear his take after full time last night. So let's have a listen.
Steve, what was your thoughts on the match in the end?
A lot of things I can take from it that were decent in terms of playing against top quality opposition. Obviously didn't create enough. Final third of the pitch would be something that we have to look at, but it's something that we've spoken about often. We keep working at it, we keep trying to get better at it. and we'll continue to do that.
Do you try and do that then, and is there anything else you feel you could improve on tonight?
Well, first of all, you've got to look at the quality opposition. We're playing a top-class team, and towards the end they're bringing on stronger and stronger players. I chose to go the opposite way because I had players that I needed minutes on the pitch, but also had to protect towards the end of the game. It's just to keep working. It's to keep working at what we do. I didn't think it'd be a low-scoring game. It was, and even the goal that we conceded came from a bad choice to go forward too early, and we weren't organised after defending a set play. So we can learn little lessons, but I think it shows that if you make bad decisions against top teams, you get punished.
From the chances you did create, do you feel that it was a case of just being a bit more clinical in those key areas?
I think the one that you're looking at is probably Scott's early in the game was a big chance to score. If you score that, then maybe the game would have been more open. It would have been more chances. But listen, Scott's got enough goals for he gets in the right position. It was a big chance to score, but we didn't do it.
I know everyone would rather win games than go through defeats, but when you're preparing for a major tournament, just how much more important do you feel it is the learning experience that you get from the games rather than maybe the end result?
Now, the end result's always important, I think. We spoke about that before the game. We spoke about how our record in friendlies is not as good as it should be. We also spoke about performance, and I think the performance at times was okay against like I said before, a good team. So it's disappointing to lose a game. I don't think it's a game that we should have lost, if I'm being honest. So we'll go away, we'll analyse the video. One or two things that I thought were decent in the game. I thought we defended quite well. I thought the two centre-backs were good. I thought Angus was really good in goals. Nice to see young Tommy come into the game and showed up well. So a lot of good things.
How nice was that just to get him his first run out at this level?
Well, Tommy's had a few chances before, but never really as a starter, never really from that position, which obviously it's a position where we don't have loads and loads of wide players, where you're thinking you can continually find another wide player. It is one of the reasons why I brought young Finlay into the squad. It was nice to get him on the pitch. Obviously, it's a difficult moment for him to come into the game. We weren't on top of the game at that time. But no, Tommy was decent.
How important, Steve, looking at the warm-up matches as a whole, is it to build that momentum, keep the feel-good factor from Denmark, and ensure that, when we
that's what we spoke about before. So it was, like I said before, it's not a game that you want to lose. But I think there's enough in that game against the opposition that we played against to still feel positive about what we're trying to do. We have another really tough game on Tuesday night in Liverpool against Ivory Coast. As I always do, and sometimes I think my players look at me and think, come on, Gaffer, what are you doing? I always try to pick difficult friendlies. So another difficult one on Tuesday night, and we'll try and get a positive result to carry us forward. But if the performance is good and you can take things from the performance, you can also carry that forward as well.
Is the level that Japan were at, is that a reminder of the level that you're going to be faced with over in the States?
That's why we take the games. This is where you have to be at, lads. This is the level you have to reach, and if you want to get the points that are going to get you out the group stage, you have to play to that standard.
Just a word on your thoughts on the changes for Tuesday night. Then, how many do you have a number in mind of what you want to do on Tuesday?
Well, obviously we'll have a little look at the lads after how they come out of that game, but I would expect there'll be 6, maybe 7 changes. There'll be significant changes to the team on Tuesday night because there are other things that I want to look at.
Some of the fans were quite unhappy. Did that surprise you?
Yeah, and disappointed me, I have to be honest.
Yeah, you'd expect a bit more kind of understanding maybe in a friendly game, given they're going to a World Cup in a few months.
Listen, it's just the modern way. It seems to be now if you lose a game you get booed, so you just got to deal with it.
But it disappoints you?
Disappoints me.
Steve Clarke there, and we've got plenty of comments coming in, guys. Let me throw a few of these at you, because some of them are quite strong. I said before we come on to Keith there, I'm kind of taken aback by a lot of them, but anyway. Jamie says, Clarke should not be offered another contract. He did well getting Scotland to the World Cup. Thank you, but now we have to move on to the next level. If this team plays the same this summer, they will be the whipping boys. Craig says, Clarke has done well to get Scotland back to major finals. As Brandon football is dire, it's safety first all the time. No wonder fans are bored. This one here from Gary says, I was at the Hungary game, which scarred me for life. So I have no problem with folk booing. If they charge a £5 for a friendly, then that's fair. David Bradley says, that Scotland team's dire. Nothing coming through. We are going to get hammered with that team. Mo says Steve Clarke only qualified for tournaments. And I actually, do you know what? I'll throw it over at you guys there because I'm losing the boat to live as I read these.
Okay, look, let's not have an overreaction here. You know, it's a friendly. By the way, guys, we have qualified for a World Cup. let's not, you know how the Welsh had an absolute disaster through the week there, losing in penalty kicks in a playoff to get there, and there was heartbreak for Northern Ireland and the Republic of Ireland. We're through. We're going to a World Cup. So let's not forget what Steve Clarke has done. But I'm with Scott. Let's now, I think it's legitimate to ask the question, can we do a bit more? Can we go to this World Cup and just, as Scott used the phrase, take the handbrake off a little bit. Just go and express ourselves and enjoy it. Go there and enjoy yourself. Because part of us at these last two tournaments has looked a little bit scared of it. Happy to be there, but scared of taking a beating or whatever. I just want to see Scotland go and remember that we've got a lot of really talented players in our starting 11. We're not there by chance or by accident or by fluke. We're there because we've got a really talented group of players. I think easily more talented than the last squad that went to a World Cup in France 98, and I was there at France 98 reporting on it. For me, this is a more talented group at coming to the prime, some of them, and some of them, you know, still to get there, but exciting nonetheless prospects. I just want to see us go and express ourselves. What worries me a little bit, right? Two things about that Steve Clarke interview after the match. First thing, I distinctly heard last broadcast question, and then I heard Robert Grieve from my son asking the question that seems to have got the broadcasters online about how disappointed that Steve Clarke was with the fans. So that's a bit naughty for a kickoff. But secondly, Steve Clarke did say, didn't he, about, you know, I expected this to be a low-scoring game. Mm-hmm. That worries me, because if that's what the manager thought and that's what he expressed to his players, then is it any wonder that they've gone out there thinking nil's a good result? And that we shouldn't be thinking like that. And I don't know if Steve Clarke has said to him, look, this will be low-scoring and it could be a bit cagey. Well, that's not great messaging. Now, it might well be that he didn't say that to the players. It might well be that he kept that to himself. But it would explain a lot of the stuff. And I felt there was, I don't know about you, Scott, but I felt there were phases, probably at the start, for the first 10, 15 minutes of the first half, and again in the second half, where certainly second half we were much more aggressive in trying to press and much better off the ball in terms of shutting people down, being higher up the pitch, being more aggressive. I liked that. Yeah. And I felt there was spells in the first 15 minutes of the first half where we moved the ball really nicely. And it reminds you of what a good team of players we've got. They're comfortable. This isn't like, see the France 98 Scotland, with the best will in the world, and we had some talented players in that team as well. It was long ball stuff. It was punt it up, and it was, you know, fight for second balls, and we missed out the midfield for large parts of it. This isn't that Scotland. This is a team that's more than capable of, what's the phrase now, playing through the lines and all this, keeping the ball, keeping possession. That's why, and I'm going to keep coming back to, that's why I want Billy Gilmour in the middle of the pitch, orchestrating, because that's what he does. He directs the traffic in there. But the way I felt phases for that first 15 minutes, well, we're moving the ball up and down the pitch quite nicely. We got the early chance. If McTominay scores that, could have been different. But that's what worries me a little bit. If McTominay does score that, and Steve Clarke said this is probably going to be a low-scoring game, boys, do we just then shut up shop, having scored in the first minute? So, you know, I want the messaging to be different. I don't know. We don't know what is said inside the four walls of the dressing room. But I would look to Tuesday night now. He said he's going to make, at least 6 changes. That'll be your goalkeeper. That'll be your 2 centre-halves. There's 3. It'll be Billy Gilmore will start in midfield. It's 4. I think Conway...
Striker will change.
Striker will change, and I think Conway will change. And I think we might see Finlay Curtis get a start. Yeah. And I'd be all for that, because I don't think... And I'm sure that Steve Clarke's already got that, and he said, because it's not fair on that young man to bring him into the squad, give him 10 minutes at the end of a game against Japan, when the game's actually getting away from us a little bit. You want him to at least get a start in this friendly, and let's see what he can do. Let's see what he can offer. I think he will, Scott. I think he will be more inclined to get forward and get at people from wide positions, and he's a more natural wide player for me.
I'd like to see Lennon Miller getting a start as well.
Good shout.
And I think he'll definitely feature. I thought, it's no surprise, but I thought our best player again on Saturday was McTominay.
100%, Scott, 100%.
But Jack, that's because McTominay plays with that freedom and a swagger. He's so confident in himself because of what he's done. We were talking about a Ballon d'Or contender last season, no Serie A title winner. And I know it's maybe, you could argue, might be slightly easier for him playing in that kind of number 10 role. Clarke has kind of given him a wee bit of licence to roam. But he just, McTominay plays with a bit of an aura about him. Now, I think, with a bit of belief. See if we could just get 2 or 3 more players playing with that kind of attitude. I think you'd see a vastly improved performance.
Billy Gilmore does that. John McGinn does it.
Yeah, John McGinn.
And Lennon Miller does it.
Well, we ain't seen him so much in a Scotland shirt to make that judgment, Scott. You know that Gannon Doak is going to give you that when he comes back in. That's why I think Finlay Curtis might. You know that? I think that Finlay Curtis is so high in confidence right now that I think if you give him a start, let's see. I think what is it they say about sometimes the shirt can be too heavy. I don't think you're going to have that problem with this guy. I think he's absolutely sky high confidence levels, and he's not short on ability either. He's pacey, he's direct, he's got a trick, he likes to take players on. Get him in the team, let's see what he can do, because I think you're going to need 2 of those players. And Steve Clarke, I asked him when he announced this squad, is it conceivable if Finlay Curtis comes in and impresses in this squad that you can take him and Ben Gannon Doak in your squad to the World Cup? And he said, yeah, there's always room for good players. So let's get him in. We don't have time to mess around here. Get him out in the starting team on Tuesday night, and let's see if he's ready for it. I suspect he will be.
In the comments, guys, let me have a look at these. Alex says, Scotland looked like a nation where the players were happy to get together, but the game was an inconvenience at this stage of the season. It's more important to the players for them to concentrate on clubs fighting out for domestic honours. Lee says, we've qualified, but we want to see the team having a go. Come on, the handbrake was on. Doco says, aye, but Keith, that shouldn't be our main ambition, to qualify. And Alex,
I know, okay. I listen, totally understand that. Not one of us sitting here would say we'll be happy just to go to a World Cup and get the first flight home again. We want to go and we want to make history. But see, in order to do that, you need to qualify first. And unless my memory's gone, Steve Clarke's the first manager that's managed to qualify us for 3 tournaments. It's never been done before.
We just had we couldn't qualify.
France, yeah, exactly. France 98 was the last time we qualified for anything. And he's just got 3 out of 4. So let's not forget that. Let's not underestimate that. It is really important, the work that he's done. And also, I'd go a bit deeper than that. Steve Clarke came into a situation where we hadn't qualified for all that length of time, and he came in with a plan, and his plan was to pick a core group of players that he felt would represent the best possible future for the Scottish national team, and then build it into a family, build it into a club atmosphere. That's exactly what he's managed to do. It's brilliant management. Now, we can... And that's why I really don't want the baby to get chucked out with the bathwater when we're having this discussion, because Steve Clarke has worked wonders bringing this whole thing together. And it's been a lot of thinking that's going on. This hasn't happened by accident either. But that said, is it fair to say tactically, when we get there and when we're going into these warm-up games, can we look to be a little bit more adventurous and a little less cautious? I don't think that, you know, you can't ignore either side of that argument. And I think both are fair. I think it's fair to say that Steve Clarke has done brilliantly to get us to this point. But also, particularly on the back of the two last tournaments, can we do something a little bit more bold? Because that's what Steve Clarke has said, hasn't it? Mm-hmm. He said we need to learn from what we didn't do right at these tournaments, even from where the base training camp is. He felt it was too remote in Garmisch. So this time we're going to Charlotte in the US, and the players can get access to go into the city centre. It's not New York, so it's not, you know, it's not bedlam in there, but it might be a little bit more lively. It might give them more options. It might make the downtime, you know, less of a drag for the players. So if we're learning on all these little things, and we are, can we also learn about how we approach it? The most important facet of the lot, how do we approach it on the pitch? Because the qualification campaign has been successful. We're there. I don't know if we necessarily want to treat the games at the tournament in the same way as we would treat the qualifiers. You've got 3 games, guys.
Yeah.
So, and Daniel, what Jacko's saying there about, you know, being more adventurous, I genuinely believe that the murmurs or the wee bit of booing at full time, that's not directed towards, you know, Steve Clarke per se as the manager and the job he's doing. I don't doubt Scotland fans. You know, Steve Clarke's given these Scotland fans unbelievable highs. You know, I mean, the Denmark game is the ultimate, you know, it was for all of us. But you think of the Spain game, you think of Oslo, Kenny McLean's winner. There are more in terms of getting to these 3 tournaments. You know, Serbia, David Marshall's save that kicked the whole thing off. No Scotland fan could argue that Steve Clarke's not done a brilliant job. And by the way, there wasn't a lot of booing at the weekend. I think it's important to make that clear. You know, if you sit in the press box, there was a wee bit of booing, and it seemed to be coming from around us, which is where the kind of hospitality folk. I mean, I don't think it was the majority of the fans inside the stadium. But if there was a bit of discontent, it's because of that lack of adventure. It's because they just want to see a bit more for this team because they know they're capable of it. And I make a point in a piece I've written for tomorrow that when you think of that Denmark game, just how good it was, you think back to that night, that was a do or die game. That was the night when Scotland had to go for it, especially late in the game. And wouldn't you know it, when the shackles come off, they score 3 of the best goals Hampden's ever seen, you know, in a game. Well, these players are talented players, and I think when they're allowed to go and express themselves, they could produce a higher performance. And I'll go back to what I said at the start. I get the job that Steve Clarke's done. I get, as Jacko says, he's made us more resilient, made us tougher to beat. You know, they're a proper group of players now that are so tight-knit. And of course, that has to be the foundation for your success. And the success we've had is getting to these 3 tournaments. But it just feels like it could be Steve Clarke's last tournament. It could be Andy Robertson and John McGinn's last tournament, to name but 2. Might be me and Jacko's last tournament. For God's sake, got to just attack a wee bit, mate, and just enjoy it. Just have a go. And look, if we go and get beat, no, if we go and get knocked out in America, so be it. We've been knocked out the last 2 tournaments, and there's been that feeling of regret. What might have been? We should have done this. We could have done this. Don't leave America with that same feeling. If you get knocked out, at least look back and say, I tell you what, no, we might have got knocked out, but what a time we had. And 3 brilliant games and some couple of great goals we scored. At least have a go. Steve Clarke must know that at the back. He has to. He has to.
If you remember what it was like at the Euros in Germany, we're sitting down and you're watching teams that you didn't expect just going hell for leather, just going, and exactly the way that we approached that Denmark game, we went into thinking we have to win this. Simple, go out there and win it. I want us to go into that the opening game against Haiti, thinking the exact same thing. That's got to be the attitude. Go into that game exactly the way you went into the Denmark game. I wonder if, because it's tournament, because, you know, Steve Clarke will be thinking about games 2 and 3 further down the line.
Yeah.
Well, do you know what? Forget games 2 and 3, because see if you don't win game 1, it's over anyway.
Oh, you need to win that game.
That first game's an absolute must-win.
So you've got to carry that same mindset that we had against Denmark into the first game, and then see where it takes you. Because see if you go in and you get your 3 points from that first game, well, do you know what? Go out and do it all again. Just go the same way. Go the same way. Go out all guns blazing, because 3 points could be enough at the end of the day to get you through this group.
See, just last thing in Scotland, guys, the game on Tuesday night, as I mentioned, you guys will be there. See, just from a momentum point of view, it kind of needs a result, Steve Clarke. I mean, I know it doesn't really matter, but
listen, I think with momentum, from a momentum point of view, Daniel, what was the game or last game before Saturday?
Denmark.
Yeah. So
that was a good one.
Aye. So you know, I get it. Saturday was a difficult watch. I thought the stadium was flat, the atmosphere was flat, the players looked flat. It's a game you just rather forget. I'm sure there'll be learnings from it that Steve Clarke will be speaking to the players about, what they did well, what they should do better, and that's all good. But let's just forget Saturday ever happened, right? And let's move it on now. The friendlies are always, and our record in friendlies is poor as well. And I'm not that bothered about that, to be perfectly honest. I couldn't care less. They don't mean anything. I do want to see a better level of performance. I do want to look at a Scotland side and say, right, okay, we're going to have a go here. We've got players that believe in themselves to go up against anybody and go and give them a proper game of football. That's what I want to see. And I'd like to see that on Tuesday. I don't think we need to worry about momentum and friendlies. I just think we need to look at the performance level and the overall sort of mindset of the group. Are we going out there afraid to lose, or are we going out there trying to win? And if we do the latter, I think we're a better side. And also going to play Billy Gilmore, please.
Before we wrap up, guys, we've got a couple of domestic things to touch on. Julian Araujo might have played his last game for Celtic, Keith. The unknown Bournemouth the unknown Bournemouth defender apparently has a thigh strain, and apparently stories coming out this afternoon that it's going to rule him out for 8 or 9 weeks. So, has he played his last game for Celtic?
Well, it looks like it, doesn't it? That's a bit of a blow, isn't it? Because look, I know I was away on holiday last week, and I wasn't away on the other side of the moon, Dan, right? So I did see that you were playing about with AI pictures, right? Which is a bit creepy.
Sorry, Keith, you're breaking up.
Right? So, holiday snaps of me wearing ridiculous things and all this, right? It was AI, just in case there's any doubt about this. I
don't know what you're talking about, Keith.
Creepy, right? That's creepy. Cut that out. But what I did hear when I was over by was I thought Araujo had put out some messaging on social media alluding to the fact that he would be back and when he'd be back for Celtic, and it wasn't going to be that long away. So this has come as a bit of a surprise. If it's, you know, if I'm right, was he doing that, Scotty? Was there a social media post saying that he was on the way back?
I definitely hinted at that.
So that'll come as a blow to him, because obviously I think he was thoroughly enjoying his time in a Celtic shirt. Could Celtic make the deal permanent?
Cost a lot of money, wouldn't it?
It cost a lot of money, and it'll be Premiership wages, Premier League wages. I think it's unlikely. I think we may have seen the last of him. I don't know. Would Celtic be able to get another loan deal, a season-long loan deal for him? Is that the way that Celtic want to go right now? Season-long loan deals? I don't know. Maybe it is, because they've got so many things on the to-do list this summer that if you've got a right back and you can extend that deal for 12 months, maybe it is something, because your eyes are going to be in other parts of the team that need fundamentally fixed in the summer window. So who knows? Maybe, but again, Rangers want to do something similar with Mikey Moore. But you know what happens? whatever happens, these guys will go back to their parent clubs. They'll probably do the pre-season there. They'll probably do a pre-season tour. So if Mikey Moore goes back to Rangers, you're probably towards the end of August, it would probably have to be. And it would be something similar with Araujo. You'd think if Celtic could get a deal for that.
Well, we're on Celtic. Might be Celtic related. The fact that Igor Tudor has been sacked by Tottenham this afternoon. 7 games he lasted, which is impressive. But that could have a domino effect for Celtic with Robbie Keane, apparently the red hot favourite to take over from.
I don't know if he's the red hot favourite, Daniel, but his name is certainly in the discussions. And his name has certainly been in the discussions with Celtic. And I think Dermot Desmond might have already identified Robbie Keane as his own preferred candidate. So yeah, you can't, I wouldn't imagine if he got offered the Spurs job that he'd knock it back. So that could impact on the decision making that Celtic have got in terms of finding a replacement, a long-term replacement for Martin O'Neill.
And across the city, Scott with Rangers, our transfer guru Scott Burns has a story in Record Sport Online this afternoon saying Rangers are watching very closely Luke Graham of Dundee. I know that we've kind of heard that before, but apparently they were in attendance at Friday night's under-21s game where he was a standout. Is he someone that you think could make the jump up to Rangers?
I've not seen enough of him, Daniel, to be honest. I mean, I've seen him a few times, and certainly from people I've spoken to, they've been really impressed with him. I didn't see the under-21 game the other night, 0-0 draw against the Czech Republic, but apparently he was a standout. Luke Graham. I think Rangers were actually at the Hearts Dundee game. Had scouts at the Hearts Dundee game last week as well, presumably to keep an eye on him. But I think I've said before on here that I don't think it's a secret now that Rangers are watching closely SPFL players who are around them. I think there's a real conscious effort to ensure that they don't miss out on anyone that they think might strengthen them or that they can pick up for a reasonable fee, obviously. So I think they're looking at everybody. They've obviously looked at the Motherwell boys, Elijah Just, Maswanise. They'll be on the radar as well as Luke Graham. I think there are one or two others as well. So I don't think there are any kind of concrete moves to go and sign these players at the minute. I do think it's a conscious effort for Rangers, and that could obviously kind of come alive in the summer when it gets round to bringing people in.
I think, Scotty, not wishing to contradict you, I think they're quite far down the line with Luke Graham. I think he's been identified for a number of weeks now. I think there's been discussion. Interestingly, I believe that Andrew Kavanagh is actually quite central to some of the discussions. You would have expected maybe that he'd kind of hand that, sort of let the minions deal with that sort of stuff. That he delegates, but I think that he's taking personal interest in what the recruitment department are looking at this summer, and I believe very much that Luke Graham is a guy that is the serious interest is beyond they're just monitoring. I expect them to put a bid in for him this summer. It wouldn't surprise me, by the way, if they did some kind of deal whereby they do a deal with Dundee to buy him and then loan him back out to Dundee for next season to get him another year of Premier League experience, because I think that'd be better for his development than sitting struggling to get any game time at Ibrox. If you know he's one for the future, but he needs games, all centre halves need as many games as possible, because you know it's quite unusual to get a really good young one, if you know what I mean. But that comes with game time. It comes with experience. He looks the part, this boy. So I think that Rangers, I think that's exactly what they'll be looking to do, is structure a deal whereby they can get him, they can sign him, and they can maybe loan him back to Dundee. And I think that would please Dundee as well, because he's a central part of that team. And it's a much improved Dundee team, isn't it? So I would expect, I know it's beyond it might happen in my head, I fully expect that to happen.
I think that would be a great move, Jacko. I think if Rangers can do a deal to send them back on loan, I think that would be ideal for all parties. You know, you think
He's
you're right.
development stall, Scott, if he was sat on a bench watching.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Aye. And Rangers, obviously, Fernandes has kind of made himself number one pick centre-back. We don't know what's going to happen with Giga, who's still on loan. John Souttar's signed a new contract. Scotland International, he's going to be there next season. So it'd be tough for Luke Graham to come in and just play right away. Whatever age is, 21-year-old. Be tough for him. So I think if that's right, I think that'd be a great move for everybody. If Rangers could do a deal, get him back to Dundee for another season, as you say, he can aid his development, then I think that'd be a brilliant bit of business for them.
And the only other thing, Scott, Rangers-wise, was Rabbi Matondo is off. You'll always have that goal against Celtic.
Looks like it, aye. Go against Celtic, go against PSV. That's about 1.25 million a goal. Aye, he's not been a brilliant signing, Daniel. I think he's been there 4 years now, which is incredible. Riddled with injuries, couldn't find any kind of fitness or consistency, and it's just been a case of trying to get him off the wage bill. Now he's only got 3 or 4 months left on his contract, but looks as if they're going to be able to offload him to Brann Bergen, presuming he passes his medical, obviously. And I think Rangers, although they'll not get a fee, we know a lot of time left in his deal. I do know Rangers, the deal that they've kind of agreed is that Rangers will get certain bonuses kind of tied in for Rangers if he hits some targets, and if he moves on again, which might be a big if, but if he moves on again, Rangers will get a kind of hefty sell-on fee. So I think
he's quite a big earner, Scott, isn't he? He made a few quid at Rangers, didn't he?
He was a big signing. I think it was Giovanni van Bronckhorst. He previously moved to Schalke, if you remember, for like 11 million.
Aye, that's right.
11 million quid. Rangers managed to get him for about 2.5, I think. And it just hasn't worked out. So as you say, big wages. They've been dying to try and get him off the wage bill. It's probably happened later than they'd hoped, but it's just another one of these guys who are surplus to requirements. Danny Rowe kind of getting out the door before the summer.
Guys, I think that brings us to the end of Sunday Night's Hotline Live, brought to you by NordVPN. Thanks very much for all the comments. We massively appreciate it. We'll be back at 6 p.m. Tomorrow night to do it all again. You guys will be down in Liverpool, of course. Hopefully, you can join us then.
You can get to work now, Dan, on what me and Scott might look like as Scousers. AI machine.
Aye, we'll get the perms and the moustaches and that. Do you know what? That's a great shoot. That's my night sorted. Brilliant. Scott, it's always a pleasure.
Cheers, Dan.
All right, thanks very much for watching. Hope you can join us tomorrow. Cheers.